Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Again, we tell you that the name of Magnetic Service is a metaphor. For the magnetic grid of this planet contains that which is what we would call the posturing of consciousness. We've told you before that you could not live here without it. The fact that it had to change in the early days to reposture itself and get ready for what's coming. That's the service that I originally have come for, and now I am a messenger. People have said, well, where do you really come from, Kryon? I told you this morning, and I am not an entity, and not singular. I'm from the creative source just like you are. I represent pure consciousness of love and compassion. And I speak through this human being who you see sitting in the chair. It is not unusual. It's not odd. It's not spooky. It's filled with compassion, love, beauty. You see this as so odd and so strange, and it's not. Thirty-something years after the death of the one you call Jesus, there was an apostle. Saul of Tarsus is in prison. Now his name is Paul, and he's writing what will someday become the Holy Scriptures. And he's sitting there by himself. And the man is filled with joy, and he has tears running down his cheeks. And in a half light, he is inscribing the words that so many millions will read someday, and they will call it the Word of God. Is not the Word, it's Word of Paul. Under the influence of channeling, directly he is receiving information about the beauty of God, what has happened on the earth. The Master of Love, word after word, thousands of them, in prison. And he is so alive with it. He's channeling. And you don't have any trouble with that, do you? But when a modern man sits in a chair and does even a fraction of this to give you updated messages from the creative source, there are so many who say, impossible. This is your discernment. There is no judgment of your belief. But I ask you to discern, at least discern. I ask this of all those who would listen to me right now. Are you going to use what you think is real as the litmus test, as the measuring stick? Or are you going to discern the energy of what you're hearing right now? Are you going to listen to these words and understand and hear and feel the compassion and the love for you? Or have you already got your mind made up that it isn't happening? This channel today is going to be an answer to a question that was asked. It may not be exactly the question or exactly the answer, but it's close enough. For one of the driving questions that every old soul or light worker would have on this planet right now, one who is awakening to an energy that is so different right now, one who is aware that things are changing spiritually, physically, right now, that person would ask this kind of question. Dear Kryon, dear Spirit, dear God, in this new changing energy, What is it that a regular human being on this planet who is an old soul, what is it we can do that will not only enhance this energy, help ourselves, but also be commensurate to what is going to happen? What can we do? What is it, if you want to use the word, we should be doing? And we've told you before, there are no shoulds. So you reinterpret that and say, what is the most honorable thing that we can do to match the energy? And so I'm going to tell you. Now, dear ones, I've told you before. But every single time the question is asked, a more evolved answer will occur. For as your linear time goes by, the potentials change. Therefore, you're sitting in a reality you have never experienced yet. This is new. It may feel like it was yesterday and the day before, but I know better. The potentials have changed. The kind of shift you expected may not arrive. Something better may arrive. You may have altered that. It is always dynamic. There is no set amount of energy being delivered to you on a certain schedule, dear ones, because your consciousness changes it every hour. All the time. It's beautiful. I can give you these things that I'm going to give you now. Again, because there has been precedent set on other worlds just like yours, and some of you have been through it already, and here it is again. And I know what they've gone through. I have seen this. This is not the first time. You sit on the cusp of major human shift on this planet. What can you do to marry with the energy? I'm going to give you 5 concepts, and they're not easy. It's not a list for you to accomplish, dear ones. We don't give lists. It's concepts. And the very first one, I will say, is primary. And that is to say, not more important, but first. There's a difference. Not more important, but first. There's a difference. And we're going to use a word that probably doesn't even exist in your dictionary. Cognizing. Cognization is an English word that loosely means the cementing of belief. You believe there is gravity because you've seen it since you were born. It's invisible. But you believe in it so strongly that everything you do is so that you can work with it. You have cognized gravity. It is not something that you believe in, like you would believe in the tooth fairy, for instance, for a while, or when you're young. No, it is cognized, and it becomes part of you to your last breath. You believe in gravity. You know it's there, even though you can't see it. It holds you to the earth. It never changes. We're going to ask you to cognize the belief that the energy that you are moving into is vastly different to the energy you have come from. This is first. It is primary. You have got to cement this into your belief system so strongly that everything you do from now on recognizes the new energy is the new normal. It's never going backwards. It's part of a new plan. It's almost like you died and came back with new gravity. Like suddenly the gravity was lessened and you can do more things, and it's forever. And so you cognize this. Dear ones, it has to be first of the five, because you won't be able to do anything else unless you believe that this shift has happened and it's real. The shift is dynamic. It continues to change. But like you turn a page and you're reading new words in a new novel, the page stays turned. You don't go back and read what happened before it. The page got glued to all the others before it, and you can't get back to it. You are now past the page turn, experiencing the new energy, and that is the new gravity, and you cognize it. Believe that it's happening. Now, I keep saying this because there are those who aren't getting it. Because there's always that part of you that says, well, maybe it's not happening. You've got to get past this one. Every waking moment is the new energy. And you're part of this. And that is why you were born at this time, dear one. Old soul, are you listening to me in the chair and all the places perhaps not in this room? You wonder why you were born now. You want to know why things are happening to you that need to happen to you now. Maybe it's so you'll believe. There are some negative things in your mind that may be happening right now to you. And you're wondering, why me? Let me say something gentle to you. You're so stubborn that you're going to have to do something for yourself to realize that this is new. And when you do what you need to do for yourself and get past this hurdle, you'll realize there isn't anything you can't do. This is the way God works with humans. That's how much we love you. You know who I'm talking to? Get on with it, will you? Cognize this. That's number one. Number two is allowance of change. These are concepts. Oh, stubborn human being, get used to it. Things are changing, and they're going to change perhaps not in the direction you had planned. How do you feel about that? Oh, singular human being with a singular purpose and a singular idea of who you are and what you should do, get used to this. Allowance. Can you sit there and say this or something better? I allow growth. I allow consciousness change in me that may change my life in ways I never ever thought they would change. How afraid of this are you? The fear is about change. It's not about where it's going. It's just about the word itself. Change. So the second in this five set is allowance of change. Now look at the numerology of these things. Number one is always new beginnings. That's easy. You got to believe. Number two often deals with duality. And duality really is the primary fear of change. You just don't want this thing to move off that center point that you're used to, do you? Between light and dark. The duality that you've been used to, That balance between light and dark is comfortable. Now suddenly, Spirit wants to push it a little so that you capture a little more light so that the darkness starts to diminish in your life, and it's going to change everything. Do you allow it or not? Belief. Allowance. Allowance of change. From the other side of the veil, we look at you and we say everything that you're going through is like breaking old habits. They're just habits, that's all they are. You're like someone who has superpowers. You can fly. This is a metaphor. And you walk on the earth knowing that everything before said you couldn't fly. And we're saying you can. But most of you won't. It's just too comfortable to walk around. The metaphor is clear. Allowance of change. So the next three are more practical, but very difficult. With your belief intact, with that which is your allowance for things to change, your conquering of duality, you're now ready for one of the biggest steps. Number 3, compassionate action. Everything you do from a standpoint of compassion. You're going down the road and you're in your vehicle and somebody cuts you off and honks at you and they're an idiot and they're a fool. How do you feel? Is it possible to take that scenario to a compassionate level? The answer is yes. First of all, don't let it affect you. Because you're a compassionate person, the buttons of anger, frustration are disconnected to the point that all you can think about is that that person is having a bad day. So you back your speed off so that they have an allowance. You give them more space so that they'll feel better. There's no grudge you hold. You don't yell at them back. You have a compassionate action in everything you do. Things happen to you with other individuals that might have normally hurt your feelings because your life is unique and there are things that will hurt you, perhaps, in what people say or how they act or what they do or don't do, or the disappointments that you would have with others around you. This is simply human. But what if everything you do comes from a compassionate soul who sees it all so differently? Dear ones, in a compassionate way, there is no one who can hurt your feelings ever, because you know who you are, and they're just having a bad day. Do you see what I'm saying? Compassionate action is coming from a compassionate heart no matter what. It is a position of strength. Now, some of you listening to this in other lands right now need to hear this. It is not a weakness to be compassionate. The masters of this planet exuded compassion. The very ones that you may worship are about compassion. They were not weak. So whatever you've been told about a kind, compassionate person, you're going to have to rearrange your perception, because that is strength. Compassion is strength. A balanced human being will not catch disease. Did you know that? A balanced human being will have that which you would call synchronicity. Others call it luck. Synchronicity. to be in the right place at the right time, to have the right things happen, because they're compassionate. It's a beautiful package. When you start a compassionate action path, everything changes. That was number 3. Now, 3 in numerology, of course, is the catalyst. And what a catalyst is often known for in chemistry is that when it appears, it changes something else around it, while it itself often remains the same. A compassionate person changes those around him and her. And they don't rub off on you. No negativity will attach to you. It's such a position of strength, they will want to be with you. You change the earth where you walk. Number 4. Spiritual sight. I want you to start seeing the grander picture. I want you to see God in everything. I want you to look outside and see God in the trees and in the dirt. And the light that comes from the sun. I want you to feel the warmth of the love of God shining on you even in the dark. Spiritual sight is something that many have anyway. They're so aware that God is in all things. But it's part of this circle that we're describing of the 5 things we want you to know you can do. Compassion is one thing, but spiritual sight, this actually proves that compassion works because you can see God in other people. The one who cuts you off on the road has God inside, just doesn't know it. Just doesn't know it. And your spiritual sight, married to your compassion, says, there goes a creature just like me who doesn't know about themselves yet. Not yet. Not yet. The compassionate soul, which was number 3, who has spiritual sight, is the one who can see God in everyone. It helps become compassionate, doesn't it? When somebody yells in your face, and what you see in their face is God. Can you do that? You've got to think differently. You might even have to be like the masters. And this is what they had. Dear ones, these things I'm giving you are true and accurate representation of the new human being. You're not going to be fully 100% successful in any of these unless you practice them. Number 1 was to cognize that which has changed. When you cognize something, it doesn't happen instantly. You're going to have to work on it. The belief has to be cemented gradually as you see the evidence of it, and eventually it cognizes itself. You are actually training yourself to cognize and believe. The allowance for change, you have to train yourself to accept things that might be different. You're working on it all the time. The compassion comes slowly, not all at once. Don't feel you failed because you get frustrated or even angry. It's just a reminder that you weren't compassionate yet. And spiritual sight, it comes with time, dear ones. It comes with time. There comes a time when everything you look at will be in the light of God. Everything that is there. The server who comes to the table is not a server. It's a beautiful human being carrying the Creator's light. And you smile at the server and you just want to hug that person and say thank you for coming to the table. You treat each other differently and you're kind, and it's not a weakness, it's a strength. It's the biggest strength you could ever have as a human being, to see God in others. You go outside and you see God in the trees, and you know that it's a system, that you're part of it and it's part of you. You can be overwhelmed with joy and love just to be part of the system. It's so different than you were taught, isn't it? We've saved number 5. In numerology, 5 is change. And it's one of the hardest ones. And it's called patience. The human being wants everything now. See, I know who's here. It is inbred in you. We've discussed this so many times. It's entrained in you. When authority speaks, you want to have it now. Every single time there is something to accomplish, there is a push to do it quicker than later. Human beings want things delivered to them quickly. And they want action to happen immediately. You're going to have to practice relaxing with synchronicity. The things that many of you are asking for, listen to this. This is important. Wake up. The things that many of you are asking for are dependent on other things happening first that you seemingly have no control over. But the potentials are there for them to change. If you can wait for it and not be frustrated or angry, that is the task. Years and years ago, when I first started channeling with my partner, we talked about having the ticket to the train and standing on the track. You have earned and paid for the ticket. The train is coming. You just don't know when. And so your patient person will know the train is coming, be comfortable with it, and have a nice time waiting for it, instead of complaining that it's late. Patience. Spiritual patience is gold. It's hard. Every single one of these 5 things is not intrinsic to any of you. You weren't born with any of them. And that is why they're difficult and so accomplishable, dear ones. Don't work on them one at a time except the first one. Make it first. Cognize what you're doing, understand and believe. And then the rest of them you can work on all at once. Some of you will be better at one than another. That's just because you're unique. Don't compare notes and feel that you're doing it wrong. Did you hear me? There's a tendency to get together and homogenize everything into a list and make it so that if you don't measure up to the list, you're not doing it right. You can't do that. Not with these things. Not with the individual soul that you are, having lived so many lifetimes. You know what you did the last time you were here. It impacts you right now to how good you're going to be at these 5 things. Some of you are ready for them. Some of you are not. Some of you will have to practice harder than others. I want you to know that this is totally and completely normal, acceptable before God. You're not going to fail. Don't compare yourself to others. I want you to look straight ahead into the eyes of the Creator and know that you are God and that everything I have told you is true and that everything I've told you is possible is possible. And that's just the beginning. That's what I came to tell you today. I'm Kryon in love with humanity. And so it is. Hi everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
So let's do a little meditation and get ready for the channels. If you would just close your eyes. Take a breath, and another breath. And now is the perfect time to let your shoulders relax and the back of your neck and your face. Breathing into your body, letting your lungs fill up and filling that area in your chest and your belly so that when you exhale, it is relaxing and you are clearing the decks. And your thoughts and busyness of this morning can move to the back of your mind. And you can get ready to receive. You can open that part of you that is the receptive part. Open your mind and your heart. Open your feelings and your allowing. Getting ready for the most wonderful, loving messages, for the honoring that comes to all of us when we receive these beautiful visits from Adirondda and Kryon.
So it is good day to you, huh? So very good to see your light, your brightness, your divine presence. Even though we're not here looking at you in your right eyeballs right there, virtual reality, everything is possible. You are indeed here in this wondrous studio. You see, that is what we wish to talk with you about today and tomorrow. It is about the divine order of things. There are things that you could never imagine happening, and then they start happening. You know, when you trust, when you throw your trust right into the divine order of all things, the universe starts shifting around and saying, oh, that is what they want. That is what they want. This is where we're going. We're going to rearrange this. You know, there's an old saying that the universe will rearrange itself to accommodate your picture of reality. It's a very old saying. However, that is ultimately true, that the universe will actually rearrange itself to accommodate that which you are asking for. So when you turn everything over to that divine order, then the universe starts bringing up a solution there, or the universe starts bringing up a solution here. We could give you example after example after example in the vessel Marilyn's life and in the Joy's life, because with that energy, they are a part of the example, as you know. They are a part of that divine frequency. You know, they will tell you later, one was in California, one was in Missouri. Never the two should meet, and here they are together 10 years later. So in that capacity, the energy of divine order is something that you still get the opportunity to trust. You still get the opportunity to surrender to all possibilities. And as you surrender to all possibilities, you get the opportunity to think, What is it that I want? We'll talk about that later. What is it that we're going to pivot into? We'll talk about that later too. But as you are trusting, trust is probably one of the most difficult parts, because you see what appears to be havoc creating everywhere, chaos creating everywhere. And yet it is Sekhmet herself that says, from chaos comes change. There are some that call our dear friend Sekhmet and the destroyer of chaos, because she elicits so much change. Well, change is upon you. The world is shifting in every way possible. And what is happening there is its dimensional frequency is actually shifting. There are those scientists that say that your DNA inside of your body is actually shifting. Now, we don't know how that can be possible, but we know that everything is possible. So in this energy and in this whole feeling of trying to stay on, what does they call those boards that you're standing up on, and you have a paddle, or what are they?
Stand-up board.
A stand-up board that you're trying to balance yourself. That seems like a simple name, eh?
Paddleboard.
A paddleboard. You see, that is how simple it is you're learning to balance on something you may never have balanced before. So one way that you can help your cells in your field accommodate that is to start doing things beyond your routine. Yes, we know you wonderful humans are very routine-oriented people for the most part. You get up at a certain time, you have your morning routine where you have your tea or your coffee, or maybe it is like your Vessel Marilyn's smart tea that she drinks, or maybe it is your magic omelette that you make, whatever is your routine. So to help your cells accommodate this new frequency, we're going to ask you to change your routine. Shift your consciousness. It can be as simple or as complicated as you wish. Sometimes even changing your routine to eat with your non-dominant hand is enough to shift things around in the cells of your body. Sometimes it is about getting dressed in a different order. Do you know that when you dress yourself, and we know that you probably do at this point in your life, that you do the same thing in the same capacity? We were talking to our Vessel Marilyn this morning, and we said, dress yourself in a different order. Well, as she was putting on her pants, she does not want us to tell you this, just to let you know. As she was putting on her pants, she nearly fell over because she was not used to the different order of the pant leg going into one leg. She's saying, do not talk about this. But you see, that is important for you to know and understand, that just by shifting your conscious routine, your cells will start getting prepared for something new. They are prepared for something new. They were preparing for something new in April, and then everyone locked in and everyone stayed home. So now you are venturing out just a bit. And your cells are still saying, oh no, we liked the quietness over here. We liked that into lockdown, huh? Because you got used to that. Now, you're going to get used to something new. Yes, take a deep breath. As you get used to this aspect that is the new normal, the new human, the new frequency, it is power-filled. That is why we want you to prepare the way by doing things outside of your regular routine. outside of your regular frequency. What would happen if you actually got into the car on the opposite side of the car and tried to crawl over the console? Maybe that's not such a good idea. You might knock things over. However, look at your routine into how you cook, how you eat, how you walk, how you talk, how you connect with others, and see what part of that you can start changing. What part of that you can start shifting so your cells are preparing for the new routine that is coming. So yes, there is more newness coming. We have told you, our dear friend Kryon has told you, there's more newness coming your way. And you get the opportunity to trust that it is still divine order and process. It is still a part of that divine frequency that is you. Dearest beings of light, we love the magnificence of you. We honor you. And we bid you namaste.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I would like to do a series of 4 channels, as I often have been doing. Not all of the meetings that my partner puts together would lend itself to this kind of thing. An examination of one subject that would allow multiple parts instead of one simple short channel. And this one is going to be what I call germane to the situation of now. If those which would tune in later to this did not look at that which was the date, they wouldn't necessarily understand what we're doing. You are in the middle of what some has called wave number 2 in your country, of that which you have then called the lockdown. Perhaps not as locked as the first one, but still. The time when you cannot do the things you normally do, the time when you're required to wear things you would not normally wear, not go out and celebrate, perhaps not even go to work. These are difficult times, and they take their toll. I would like to title these particular channels, Finding Joy in the Midst of Chaos. Finding Joy in the midst of chaos. I cannot underestimate the healing power of joy. I did a channel recently talking about some of the profundities and the influences that are on the human being by certain emotions and actions and things, and joy was one of them. And now I want to continue on that. I want to give you some information probably you didn't even know. When all of this virus talk is said and done, and its history, and it will be, there will be a lot of things known that are not being known at the moment, but only suspected. And I'll tell you what one of them is. Health workers, hospitals, those who deal with unhealthy people are going to show in their graphs and charts of numbers the uptick, as they're going to call it, of other diseases during your virus. In other words, during this time, when you shield yourself from one thing, you're creating something else. And that something else is being created because your chemistry reacts to it. Your chemistry in your body, which is tuned to your consciousness in such a profound way, reacts to anxiety and fear. stress, unhappiness, then you know I'm right. It's an invitation for other diseases to come in, because your immune system is beat up, if you want to call it that, when you don't feel right, when you're fear, when you're anxiety, when you're worried, unhappy. That's what goes on. So you might say that that old adage you've heard where laughter is the best medicine is true. It is true. And physicians hearing this will agree and nod their heads and say, we have seen this. The human being has the ability, through their consciousness alone, to keep themselves alive, even past a point where they shouldn't be. I point this out and have before. Ask a surgeon. They'll tell you that there are so many instances where a grandmother or a grandfather will want to see how an operation on their grandchildren will occur, and will wait months until it happens, until they come out of it, and then they'll pass away almost the next day. Ask those in society, psychologists, how that same thing will happen, especially with grandparents, keeping themselves alive until the graduation happens of their grandchildren. And then they pass. That's the kind of control you have. Your body is linked to your consciousness. And so you can actually sustain life if you wish. Do you ever think, if you had something else to look forward that is 10 years away, can you sustain life for that? And the answer is yes. All you have to do is inform your body what you want. You're in charge. You always have been. That's Kryon information from the beginning. But the biggest one is joy, happiness, and peace. These are the things that we have taught for a very long time, and it goes right back to this premise. Every single human being has the ability to create a remembrance of joy in their countenance that has happened in their past. It's in their mind and in that synapse of their brain. Pull it forward, paste it on themselves, and be joyful in the time of chaos. This is doable. It's not a trick. It has to come from your own consciousness of desire. You have to cognize what I'm saying. Cognize it. You have to believe it. I've said this before, and I want to go back. Even if you've had a difficult childhood, dear ones, you remember that as a child, there was joy. Playing with that which were your friends or your toys or your animals. Or a time when you were so peaceful with yourself and laughed with yourself. Even if you've had a difficult childhood, those times still occurred. If you've had a good childhood, you know what I'm speaking of. If you've had a childhood where your parents loved you dearly and helped you in every way they could, you know that that inner child of yours, alive then, is still with you because you remember it. Even if you were not mature yet, that inner child has a spark of remembrance that is pasted in your brain. There are some who reject it. There are some who have been taught that when you were a child, you thought as a child, and now that you're an adult, you don't think as a child anymore. Therefore, you're not supposed to be childlike ever. Now, there's truth in that. It's even scriptural. That you should now think as an adult in that you are more responsible now. But that doesn't mean you're not supposed to laugh as a child. That is how your makeup of your consciousness is designed, dear ones, is designed to keep those things which make you happy and peaceful on a shelf that's close to you. So you can pull upon them in times of trouble. So you won't go down that what they call rabbit hole of difficulty and darkness where it's difficult to recover. I am talking to some who are in that hole, and I know it. Hard to sleep at night. When you wake up in the morning, it all comes racing back. There's problems. How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? What's going to happen next? Something you didn't even think about a year ago, and here it is. I know. There are tools, dear ones, built into you that can keep you peaceful and even joyful in these times. Imagine the ability to pull upon the memory and the emotions of you as a child at your happiest time. To be able to pull on it on purpose, consciously then paste it on yourself right now in order to get through these times without additional sickness, without the anxiety that you perhaps have at this moment. To add to this puzzle, there are also those who say those things shouldn't be done. They will say, anytime you would act childlike, it is an affront to your gender, especially men, who will say, this is no longer appropriate for my manhood. I will not giggle anymore. Well, if you've been around my partner much, you know he giggles a lot. Because he finds things that are funny, even that in times of trouble, for himself. He designs that, he knows where to go, and he knows how to do it. And he also knows that it's his salvation of health. And that's what I want to tell you about, and that's what I want to teach. There are those who've disengaged themselves from their inner child to such a degree that if you ask them about it, they'll say, oh yeah, I took my inner child and I buried it in the backyard a long time ago. So it's not going to come out, it's dead. And for them it is, because they killed it. Now it's not to say that they cannot resurrect it, because truly it's always there, but in their consciousness, their truth, they've killed it. How about you? In all of these things that I'm speaking of, where are you in this department? When you wake up in the morning, how do you feel? Does the anxiety grip your heart as soon as you wake up and you worry all day? Well, if you do, I'll tell you, you're not alone, and that's why I'm giving this channel, dear ones. There's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't need to be. You hear what I'm saying? So many of you right now listening to this, and those listening to this in the future, will relate to this in some way. I want to take these 4 channels and I want to talk about it in a loving way. I'll give you some very practical tools that are going to seem to be too simple or strange or crazy. And I'm going to do that in the next channel. I know you're going to be here because those listening to this will watch the entire program, and those who are listening to this later can find all of the channels in one place, as my partner has said, on his website, where he collects them, numbers them, makes sure that no one is left out. Dear ones, this is, I would say, the message of the day. I'm not going to be talking about profound things of the earth right now or the healing that is coming. I want to talk about the healing that's needed right now, so you stay healthy, so you can pull upon that joy that is there. And as I say, baked into your brain, it's there because you experienced it. You can't delete it. Even though you say you can and you want to, you can't. It's there, and if you want to recapture it, you can. Joy is the great healer of the human being. Laughter is the great healer of the human being. Your chemistry changes, your persona changes, and even that which you consider your outlook of the future will change, because it changes how you think. You remember when you were a child, sitting on the floor, perhaps playing, and you didn't have anything to worry about at all, nothing. The only thing that you had to worry about is how long you had to play. And your mom would come in and say, well, put away your toys. And you said, oh, that's the worst thing that could ever happen. Let's rekindle that time when there was nothing to worry about. I'll be back with some tools, more discussion. And so it is.
So as we prepare for the final channel, I'd like you to just take a breath with me. And know that even when you aren't thinking, even when you aren't trying, the healing energy is there for you. We are in it. We are immersed in that love and the honoring of the human. So just let that knowledge, that little peace, wash over you. A beautiful wave of unlimited love and compassion that comes in at this time. The entourage and Kryon. And the man in the chair who devotes his life to bringing this message, this energy, this beautiful, limitless love to all of us as we receive it as a blessing, as a healing, as something wonderful beyond our imaginings, filled with possibilities, filled with potential, and filled with the joy that we share it with each other, always, in this moment, and moments before, and moments to come.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner, he steps aside. And so the information that is given from this point forward is not his. But he lets it flow. And as he does in his own way, he verifies that it's still an energy filled with the love of God and light and purity. And that's what I want to talk about, among other things. Perception, consciousness, light, dark. I'm looking at old souls in the room. That is, those who have been through many energies on the planet. And it includes some of you who were shamanic. And in an old energy, there was a demarcation of dark and light that was palatable. The light workers spent as much time fighting evil and the dark as you did generating the light. Even as little as 10 years ago, a healer who approached an individual had to shield themselves from the negativity that the individual carried. You live in the world, and you're human. And you leave this place and you rub shoulders with so many different kinds of consciousnesses and energies. And many of you still are absolutely convinced you must battle the dark side. And I have told you now for 3 years, it's different. And if you're going to line up and battle the dark in the same way you have in the last 20 years, you haven't got it yet. You don't understand yet. You're free of this. And you might say, well, they're still there. I want to tell you, if you are sensing negativity, it's your negativity that you're sensing. Because the light, right now, in this room, is washing it clean. Right now. Listen to me. Light is active. Dark is not. It's passive. That means when you turn on the light in a dark room, the dark is gone. And right now, in this room, even though there may be older negative influences and energies and thoughts, they are buried in light at the moment. At the moment. Lightworker, if you go out and you're a healer, I want you to know that your light is so strong, darkness doesn't have a chance. Not a chance. Wherever you walk, you turn on the light in the dark room. Do you realize darkness does not have an energy of its own? It must have an absence of light to win. I want you to think of that for a moment. And what is happening right now? Through your intent, you've turned on a light. You might be a negative person sitting there. You might not have been an old soul. I want to tell you that the light around you pushes that so far away. Right now is a good time for an awakening. That's what's happening. That's what is different. Light worker, you may have worked a certain way for years and years. You may be proud of the way you work, battling the dark in the way you do. And I am telling you, stop battling the dark and turn on your light. Because that is the only thing that's going to work. That is new. Another question has been asked about cellular evolvement, physicalness of the human body. All of the work that you have done today in this workshop, what does it do? What happens? Where is it going? Will you start feeling it physically? And the answer is, of course. If you're going to change your cellular structure with consciousness, what do you think? You think you'll just walk around the way you always did? Or would there be a shift and a change, literally, physically, in how you feel? And the answer is, of course there will be. As you work on yourselves, the first thing that you're going to feel is peace. Now, I happen to know that there are those in here who are not peaceful. Get up from your chair, you walk out there, you're not peaceful. There's always something you're battling. I know who is here. I know who is here. Listen to me. Aren't you tired of this? Or do you think it's your legacy? Or are you proud of it? It's old. It's not necessary. This is the new human being, the one who is going to hold the God inside and have a light that is so powerful that wherever they walk, the negativity will run the other way. It's new. Isn't it time to relax, to chase the fears away, and be peaceful in your life? To raise out of the chair and feel a different physical you. And with this comes better health. I want you to listen to me for a moment. There's some of you who wish you could change certain things within your bodies, certain chemistry. You've tried certain things, it doesn't help, doesn't work. Do you know what the catalyst is for everything you've ever wanted? Relax and be peaceful. Did you know that? Because then you give your body a chance to talk to you. For your metabolism to start shifting, for your cells to work in a way that's going to give you better health. catch fewer colds, have better energy, not worry. You walk around straighter because you're more part of the light of the planet. There's no more burden. I know who's here. But I want to tell you the big one. What you are doing with the light, by talking to your cells, by having these processes, whether it's body talk or tapping or decoding, any kind of processing you are doing that is raising the vibration of your DNA and causing a better efficiency, anything you're doing is changing something that we have never really talked about that much. What happens to that which is your cellular structure as it starts to increase its vibration? And the answer is it vibrates higher. Now, you're not going to get some instrument in some hospital that's going to measure the vibration of your cells. Dear ones, this is metaphoric. At the same time, it's multidimensional. We have said this before. All of you have multidimensionality. You walk around with a multidimensional field, which is called the Merkaba. It's the vehicle you ride in, which is spiritual. It is not to be seen by any science yet. It's multidimensional. There is something we call the vibration of your cellular structure, which is also the percentage of which it is efficient. We have told you you're moving past a third, a 33%, into a 44% efficiency. It's going to change the children. It's going to change how you think, and it's going to do something else. I would like to tell you something. Maybe I've never discussed it this way before. Do you realize that disease is a low vibration? And what do you think it means when you raise your cellular vibration from an old one to a new one? Guess what? The old cannot attack the new. What you're doing is changing a cellular structure and avoiding and literally creating a new human structure that the old diseases cannot get to. Guess what the old diseases look for? Lower vibration, negativity, fear. Where are you? What are you afraid of? And I've just given you the secret for health. If you're going to stay in fear, it's almost like you're opening the door. As you start to ascend, you have heard the word before, you're ascending by making your cellular structure a higher vibration. When you do that, so many of the old things will drop away. Your body is smart. And it wants you to be balanced. Now, questions have been asked. How do I start this? What do I do? Intent. If you give intent verbally, and you mean it, because you cannot trick yourself, if you mean it, there is a process we have discussed before. And this is a process that has no name. Your innate senses your intent and starts to shift your body even before you do. You've seen it for a long time and you don't know what it's called. Have any of you figured out how homeopathy works? I mean, the mechanics of it. When you give your body an intent from a small tincture, a chemical which you may ingest that is too small for the body to have any kind of an allopathic reaction, way too small, the body sees the intent of the tincture and begins to heal itself because you just sent it a signal. This is a smart body. That's how it works. And it does work. Now think of doing the same thing with consciousness. You're going to give your body now a tincture of intent. Here is what I want. I am done worrying. I am done being fearful of everything around me. I am done with drama. I am done with gossip. I am done with bad health. And your body sees the reality of the tincture of truth. And it starts to correct itself even before you give affirmations. That's help. You're in a new age, not an old age that just changed a little. You're in a new age. And this age carries with it new processes that actually may be controversial to the old processes. And there will be those who grew up in the new age who will see this and go, it can't be right, and not follow along. Some of them are dying early because of this. They just can't go with it. They see it coming. Some readers have actually stopped reading because the new energy was a little too much for them and they didn't understand the rules. They didn't think they could do it. Some healers have stopped healing. This is how new it is. It's almost like you recalibrated everything you knew about dark and light. And now you're starting again. And light is more powerful. It's not just more powerful. It's winning. The ancients saw it. This is not a Kryon message, dear humanity. The ancients saw it coming. The calendars of the Maya saw it coming. The indigenous of the earth saw it coming. And they called it for what it was. A new consciousness of humanity. We're excited for you. Some will accept it and some will not. That's how new it is. Dear ones, what are you going to do? You sit all day through something like this. Did you believe it? Did you participate? Were you just having fun? Maybe you were just interested. Or is it going to change your life? And I will tell you, the change your life part is not that hard. Do you have the courage to drop what you think you knew and take a look at something new? Do you? Old souls, some of you are stuck. You've been battling this stuff so long that no matter what I say or no matter what you see, you're going to continue battling. And I want to tell you, the army has changed. The tools have changed. And light is going to win. Going to generate light, or are you going to continue doing it the old way? You can look for new diets, dear ones, to change your body, or are you going to change your metabolism, which then will give you the new diet? This is a change in everything. You want to have more energy in your life? Stop being afraid. It couldn't be simpler. And yet, it's difficult because some of these things are etched into you in a way that even right now you may be objecting to. In 2013, we told you of the shift. We said it's such a great shift that that year would not even be counted as a year. Only a change, a time of shift, change, And that would affect some of yours health. And it did. It did. Because this is the kind of thing that the body has to readjust to and get ready for. It's profound. It's new. It's real. What are you going to do with it? This is the message of Kryon. It's the reason I came. To show a love and a light to you, to the God source, and make you understand that it's yours. And that you don't have to work for it because it lives in you. All you have to do is uncover it, believe it, and drop the old stuff. Where are you in that plan at the moment? Wherever you are, there's an outstretched hand of God, light, that wants to take yours and change everything. That's the promise of a new age. Go from this place not confused, but enlightened, aware, and ready to shift. I am Kryon in love with humanity, and for good reason. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I come quickly into this place because I never left. What you call the channeling is not channeling. It's natural. It is the invitation that Spirit has of the way communication should be, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for others. It's what happens when you open the door in your heart. And through that door comes pouring that part of you which melds with the other side of the veil, that part of you which is God. And the two of you give a message. It is why the channeling is so different from human being to human being. It is the divinity in the human being married and melded to spirit that gives you the message. The clearer the channel, the better. And so it is again that we say that no preparation is needed. Like you might expect the human to sit for a while and balance for a while and do some exercises for a while. No, not necessarily. You don't have to be ready for the love of God. It's just there. It's in every cell. God eternal within the body. Every cell. Repeat it over and over, repeat it over and over. And so it is, something of this nature, with a group of this size that comes, is not hearing something that is bizarre or strange or occult. They're hearing a message from the other side of the veil, filled with the love of God. The love of the family, that is the core energy. That is the absolute. That is what you can count on all your life and then beyond. Let me tell you, dear human being, when you take that last breath, I want you to remember these words. Prepare for the love of God. Fear not what is on the other side of the veil, for you're just going to where you came from. It's important that you remember that. It's important that you know that. I want to do something different. And I don't do this often. It's a good time to do this, for this is the end of this 2007. I would like to paint a positive picture of something we see as the potentials of this planet. I would like to give you an itemization of what some have called a predictions. It would be a prediction channel, but Kryon doesn't give predictions. I want to tell you what I see as the potentials that are aligning themselves with humanity. And maybe you're going to leave with some different thoughts than when you came in. Are there going to be trouble ahead? Sure there is. For certain kinds of institutions, certain kinds of energies especially. In order to cross that bridge in these next 5 years to get you into a vibratory rate in 2012 that is a preemptory rate for the acceleration to begin. When that 2012 comes, I want to tell you there'll be no snapshot, there'll be no celebration in anybody's life but yours. That you made it. That humanity is beginning an upswing. All of this talk about new energy, what difference does it make? All the talk about the new tools, what difference does it make? I will tell you what you're going to see and expect. The potentials are laid out. You can't help it. The ball is rolling. You have started the process, and you started it years ago. You started the process for a change of human nature. Something that has not moved off of its mark since you were born, since your parents were born, since your grandparents were born, since your history books were written. Human nature. You say it flippantly. Oh, well, that's just human nature, like it's always going to be there. It isn't. It's changing. What I'm about to tell you are the predictions for one generation removed from yours. I want to take you to that place. I want to tell you some things that might occur in the interim of that place. I will tell you this: in a generation, dear human beings, when you look backwards, you're going to look at this energy and you're going to say, this was the old energy. That's how much of a change you can expect. And some of you may not like where it goes, and some of you won't mind, because it will change drastically from the traditions that you would expect, from the things perhaps that even you enjoyed and you called correct and proper, appropriate. It's all going to move off its peg of normalcy. It has to, because humans are about to shift. I take you a generation in the future of what the potentials are. Kryon, is this the future? It's the future according to now. Here's what the potentials are telling you now. I'll give you some good news. If this is going to be considered the old energy, then what are you headed for? I tell you, you're headed for a time when more human beings look at themselves as spiritual beings. Right from the beginning. My partner mentioned that books are being written about the fact that the universe could be no accident, that indeed that human beings search for God. The first thing they can do when they have sentience, when they have understanding, search for God. Now amplify that. Oh, it's not going to be a spiritual human race. It's going to be one, however, who knows absolutely 100% that they came from somewhere else. And there'll be a lot of searching going on. There'll be a lot of decisions being made, and there'll be a lot of seriousness at a younger age about who is God. And I want you to remember this. Not like today. The answer is different because the question is different. Today's question is, what is God? In a generation, it'll be, who is God? That is a major shift. Recognition that it is intelligent, that it is loving. And how do you find it? Today it's curiosity. In a generation, it'll be beautiful search. Can you believe something like that? difference. I want to tell you about the children. Today's children. What's going to happen? Tomorrow's children, a generation's children from today. You got a glimpse that my partner gave you, the potentials and the possibilities. They are grabbing a hold of DNA evolution, activating pieces and parts that have been there all along since Lemurian days. Slow activation of these interdimensional layers that are bringing you into a conceptual consciousness, a non-linear consciousness, where you'll be able to look at somebody, not only just see their energy, but know if they're telling you the truth. Wouldn't that be nice? Lying will be difficult. Wouldn't that be nice? These are the gifts that are coming in the children even of today. I have given my partner this concept before. So he is now going to explain it to you regarding the children, and it's a difficult concept because it is beyond the paradigm of what you would expect. And it's not happened before. The children are different, and they're different in ways that are beyond what you think. So let me start with this, an analogy. The animals of this planet have what you have described as natural instinct. And when some animals are born on the planet, even if their parents have been lost and they're raised by human beings, they still know who their enemies are. They still know about the habitat that they're supposed to enjoy. They still know the food that they're supposed to eat. They know of the poison berries to stay away from. All of these things without training, because it is inbred in the instinct of the animal's DNA. One of the most interesting things that takes place on this planet is how appropriate you are socially. And it has come to the point where a human being, the top of the evolutionary ladder, and sacred he is born into the planet, and you don't give him any instinct at all. He comes in blank, because that's appropriate, isn't it? You don't want to say he would come in with a bias, would you? That would be inappropriate. You have to be proper. And that is funny. Because the human beings come in with all the instincts of the ages. Every single one of them. And there's a new instinct that the children of this age will carry. And that is this: they will understand and they will know appropriateness in education. Here's what I mean. Take one of those animals I talked to you about here. Take one of those animals and you're raising them and you're trying to give them the food of the human being. And they're looking at you and they're saying, that's not our food. Give us what we're supposed to have. And when you do, they'll eat it. But if you give them some other things that you think are appropriate for them, they won't. Because it's human food. And they know better. And I've just described what the indigos are going to become. Children of a consciousness that when you teach them in an inappropriate way, they know better. And even though they do not know the substance of the teaching yet, they don't know the facts, they don't know the concept, but they'll certainly know if you're giving it to them incorrectly. Do you understand? It's a new instinct. It's a change in human nature. And you're going to see it. You've already begun. And these issues in education that you have right now that are facing the young people who are beginning to balk and reject the education that they're seeing is the forerunner of this. It's going to get worse until the education system actually breaks. And it will. It has to. When the children decide to walk out and form their own school. And they will. You see, they have an instinct. Human nature is shifting. The DNA is changing. The new age is going to change too. When there is a discovery on this planet that is scientific, the entire community knows it. You see, there is a network of interlacing communications that all science understands and knows about worldwide. If there is a discovery, whoever makes it first gets their name on it. And the rest of the community says, isn't that nice? And it remains that way. And that's because there's a network of communications, an understanding among them that they're all equal. They're all equal in the way of those who discover things first can have the energy upon them. It doesn't work that way in the New Age. For the New Age is not interlaced with a network of communication. Instead, it is hub-oriented. You know what's going on in your hub. And in another country, they know what's going on in their hub. But there's very little talking to one another. The languages don't mesh. There's no worldwide interlace. Therefore, when new energy is discovered in the New Age, for instance, a new healing method, it will get a name. And then someone on the other side of the globe will discover it, and it'll get another name. And then someone on another continent discovers it yet again, and it gets another name. So suddenly you have those doing pretty much the same thing with many names. Let me clarify this. I am not speaking now of the profundity of the work of the EMF balancing technique, for this was given very, very early on to set a precedent. I am speaking now of what happens next. Many energies delivered to you with many names. In the future, there will be a network. And like science, the New Age actually will communicate with one another enough to see who received that energy. And it will become one name. And I tell you this because it's confusing now. Just wait. There are those of you who say, well, I know all about energy work. There are those of you who say, what more could there be? Wow, we have such beautiful energy work now. We have amazing things happening. Just wait. And it's going to be very important that all of you recognize together what a new energy is to get, instead of having 8 or 9 of them around the planet all competing with one another, you see. Well, now, Kryon, I'm not sure I can understand how that's going to be, because it's not really the human nature of today, and you're absolutely right, it is not. That's going to change. Where egos are put aside, where spirit is put on top, and where those healers will get together and celebrate the energy that they have come up with instead of competing with one another. I'm telling you the truth. It's what stands in the way right now of so much more that you can do as those in metaphysics. Coming together, one energy, one name, one celebration. It's going to be the way of it. Oh, and if you think that's unusual, wait until I tell you the next one. This one you won't believe. Oh no, Kryon, that's just too far-fetched, you'll say. I want to tell you about a change of human attitude, a change of human nature to the degree that it's going to change who leads the countries of the planet. An end. Be careful, my partner, get this correct. Oh, you won't believe this. For as long as you've lived, any history book you turn to, it's the same. The countries that have the most power, as expressed in force, win. It's alive and well today. The countries that have the most force, as described and defined as that which is powerful, forceful, even turning into violence, they're the ones who win. The potential that they have in their arsenals is what makes them great. That's human nature today. And let me tell you where the power is going to be in the future. And I'll tell you this, there'll come a time when the best thing you can have as one who is running for any seat of government is the one who will win will have the one who will win will have the most compassion. And you will start to see compassion and empathy as the virtues of power on this planet. There's a trade network which is beginning now, which will sweep across the globe in 25 to 50 years. When everyone is trading with everyone, you will not have the competition for force as you do today. And there'll be another standard set for which country is the highest thought of, and it will be which has the most compassionate leadership. As expressed then in what they can do to assist their people in controlling their own way, in compassionate way. You've never seen it yet. You've never seen it yet. That is a potential. I told you you wouldn't believe it. What is the phrase? Politics as usual. No matter how far back in history you see, it's politics as usual, isn't it? Well, get ready for a shift. Well, Kryon, I'm not sure I'm going to be here to see that. Oh, really? I see. So you mean when you leave the planet this time, you're not coming back? Yes, you are. And you're going to want to. Don't miss what's coming. Imagine growing up with compassionate leadership. Oh. You're going to see this slowly develop. For human nature, change is extremely slow. How long, however, has it taken for you to see the new consciousness of the children? It's almost immediate, hasn't it? It's been with you only 10 years and you are already feeling the difference. Imagine this now. Watch for these things, even in your own elections in this country. Watch for the compassionate leadership being one of the virtues, even in your election campaigns. It's starting now. Watch for this. And did I mention the end of macho-ness? Last gasp for those leaders who want to pound their chest and say, I am king. Other people will replace them with leaders who are compassionate. Watch for this. It's happening. It's coming. And some of those of you are saying, I should live so long. Human beings, don't worry about how long you're going to live, because you will experience this. Oh, I have to mention, if I'm going to talk about these things and predictions, I will now turn on purpose to science, and I will speak now to the doctor, to Yai, as I often do. This is for him. It is also for you. And it goes like this. For there'll come a time in history when you will look back on these messages and you will remember where you heard them first, when they proved to be true and accurate. Yi, I want to take you back for a moment to your vision. I've done this before. When you walked into the room, and DNA was as big as you were, and you could examine it to the degree that you were allowed to, in order to get those revelations and insights that you needed to begin your work. Those things that would push you to the place where you are now. You saw the chromosomes. I want to tell you something you may not have seen, but they were there. When you revisit the vision, I want you to see these things, perhaps in a different light, something that's vibrating in the corner, that's even small within your vision. Now, my partner has never given this information, so I want him to be careful, and I want him to see it before he speaks accurately. DNA seems not to have changed. And when you look at it chemically, you would say it has pretty much stayed the same for as long as you could look at it. And yet we know that there is evolution on this planet of all things, including your own DNA's consciousness. And wouldn't you expect to see that somewhere? Perhaps a rearrangement of the letters, a rearrangement in some form of the chemicals to create alterations, just minor ones, in the chromosomes, to get you into a place where the genetic structure of the human genome would be just slightly different, an evolved structure. I'll tell you this is happening. And now I'm going to tell you where to look. There's a stability of proportional relationships within the chemistry of DNA that will remain stable. The sizing of the chromosomes, all of these kinds of things, that is part of the DNA, and that is the core function. But there is a part of that DNA, it was shown to you in your vision, a part of the DNA that is responsible for, let us call it the research department. If DNA were a corporation, there's something in it that is not stable, that is always willing to change, that is ripe for experimentation, and sees itself as responsible for evolving its own consciousness. To some I speak in circles. The doctor will know what I'm speaking of. A part of DNA that is not going to stay the same. And it is some of the smallest of the small. And you will find it. And my partner will use a word, and it may not be the right one, and I will ask the doctor to translate it later. He's done that before. In the subtelomere area, the smallest of the small, in the subtelomeres there is an allowance for change. And the dear doctor should know that those are the areas that respond to the interdimensional energy that he sends them. Find a way to measure it, you'll see it immediately. This is not unique, and the information is available in science very shortly, and you will see this in the globe. The acknowledgement of subtelomere information being important. So my admonishment to the doctor is, be the first one. Kryon, give us a prediction, will you? About something that's going to happen a little sooner. All right, I will give you one. There is a possibility, a potential that looms very, very strong, that one of your financial institutions, one with the most money on the entire continent, is going to fail. And it's called insurance. Watch for problems. They're already there. They're already there. how the money is collected, the integrity of where it goes, who gets it and who doesn't, and why, what it's really for. Is it helpful? Is it not? Most don't even know the extent of the enormity of money that these companies have. And I will tell you what's going to happen. They're not going to fail because of something they do. They're going to fail because the energy of the consciousness of this planet is going to change and make them responsible for what they've done. Watch for it. There are those who said, what about the monetary systems of the planet? Let me tell you something that you may not even recognize. Those who follow this work know that it was only 3 to 4 years ago which I sat on a platform like this and said, you may eventually have to devaluate your dollar in order to have a situation where you come par with the trade agreements that are needed for this earth to go into peace eventually. For trading partners do not war with each other, if you've noticed. And there was fear around that. Oh, we don't want to devaluate our dollar. We have seen what has happened in other countries when they did that, and it was awful. Well, let me tell you, you just did it. All by itself. It happened gradually. And those who would fear something never thought, ever thought, that you would have a situation where the dollar would devaluate itself slowly and appropriately and find a niche for itself and balance into the system without the pain that you have seen when countries do it in a way that is demanded. I want to remind you of something. Kryon, you're talking about trade. I'm not understanding these things. I want to remind you of something. This is not economics I'm talking about. This is peace on earth I'm talking about. 50 years ago, you had one of the strongest enemies you have ever had. And your parents know what I'm talking about. For you fought the Japanese. And if you go back and you see what you called them, and if you go back and you see what you thought of them, they were enemies. And there was hate on both sides. I want to remind you of that energy, dear human being, because it's gone today. Only 2 generations later, their economy is so allied with yours that if one of you failed, the other one would too. And I would like to tell you that between the two of you, there's only admiration today. The hatred has been gone. It's a product of what we call the trade benevolence. The countries that need each other's trade will never war with each other. That's what you're starting to see on this globe, on this planet. Some of those who don't want that, who are afraid of this change, don't understand why it is needed. There'll come a time when the doors are open and you trade with everyone. It'll be very, very difficult to war with anyone. That's only a generation away. That's the potential. I'm going to close this. I'm going to tell you that you can't have a new consciousness that understands that it's come from somewhere else without having an increase in religion. Not spirituality. Religion. And you will. And there are those who said, oh no, I thought that was going to go away. Let me tell you something. I want you to give above this for a minute. Just get above this. Put away all of those things that you might know or think are going on. And listen to these words. Blessed is the human being who searches for home in their own way, in the building of their choice, with a priest of their choice, in any way that makes their heart feel the love of God in their way. For they will have light in their heart and will have a better life for it. That's it. And that may not be what you want to do. For we sit in a place, and I have told you this before, less than 0.5% of the human race will absorb and accept what you are believing today. And that's going to be enough. That's going to be enough. That's the critical mass. It has been enough. That was enough for 1987, the harmonic convergence. It's going to be enough for 2012. You're carrying the light of the earth. Let the others search for God the way they wish, and bless them on their journey. Never judge what they do or what they think. Let them find the love their own way. And there will be an increasing number of those who will turn to this. And that is what I see. I sit in front of those literally responsible for changing the earth. Back in 1987. Kryon, you say, I only found you 3 months ago. I only just got into this. Oh no, you didn't, old soul. You're in a timeless state. You just had an appointment 3 months ago to do something you always knew was coming. And now you know. And now you know you're part of a much larger plan. Blessed are those here who are in the trenches of the war that we have called the war of energy between the dark and the light. For they are winning. Be comforted this night. Leave differently than you came. And so it is.